Okay. All right, good evening, everybody. Thank you for joining the Board of Supervisors workshop meeting for Monday, March 6th, 2023. I'd like to call the meeting to order at 7:01. In attendance are myself, Chairman David Gerstenhaber. Online is Vice Chair Donna D. and Supervisor Torres. And in the room with me are Supervisors Dowling and Johnson. And there are 16 members of the public in attendance, 18, two more people just joined. So thank you. We have a nice attendance this evening. I'd like to start with the Pledge of Allegiance.
Yeah.
Oh my God, I forgot to tell you, I was in the chair downstairs, the recliner, and
All right. So thank you very much again, everybody, for coming. So we have two topics that we're going to be going over tonight. But first, I want to just let you know how the meeting will proceed. I'm going to start off the meeting with a normal round of public comment. So people can make public comment on anything that is on tonight's agenda. Commenters must state their name, whether they are a resident of the township or a non-resident taxpayer in the township. And if you do not identify yourself, your comments will not be included in the official minutes. So we'll have this normal public comment, and I'll open that up shortly. Following PennDOT's quarter update discussion, I'll then open up again for residents to be able to ask questions on what was presented. I have to limit that time to about 45 minutes. It should give enough opportunity for people to express their concerns and ask questions. Because as I said, we do have another topic that we need to discuss this evening as well. And that topic is our MS4 discussion. So without further ado, is there any public comment that would like to start with the opening of the meeting?
Dave, can you hear me?
I can.
Okay, it's Mary McVeigh, resident. And Joe's here with me too. I have a question relating to the first topic, the PennDOT 896 corridor. We were told by the company that's representing PennDOT that they're going to take the hill in back of my house and then redo it, but then they have to replant it, and they're going to plant it in a plant called Crown Vetch. And I believe they're going to they use this all over the state of Pennsylvania. I got a question, like, I want to appeal to someone. I don't want Crown Vetch anywhere near my yard because it's not a native plant. It's extremely invasive. The state of Indiana, I believe, has banned the sale, the purchase. You can't even bring it into Indiana. So there's other good native plants. And I want to throw the question out there. Who would I contact about starting this discussion before? Because once they plant it, they said it's like bamboo almost. You cannot get rid of it. So I that's why I'm asking the question now. But I'm very anxious to hear the discussion from them. So if he wants to answer after, I'm fine with that.
If Bruce doesn't have an answer for you now, Mary, we'll find out who we need to talk to, and we'll get back to you.
Okay, thanks very much.
Yep. Bruce, did you get that question?
Yes, it did.
You want to wait till
Okay. Okay. So
all the questions.
All right. So we'll wait. Any other questions before we move into the agenda items? All right.
Okay, next, moving on, I'd like to make a motion that the board approve the November 16th, 2022 Board of Supervisors meeting minutes.
I'll second.
Seconded by Jim Johnson. Any discussion? Okay, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Okay, motion carries 5-0. Thank you.
Okay. Thank you, Don. Okay, well, with that out of the way, we are now moving into our PennDOT discussion. I have on the line Bruce Massey, who's the project manager for the group 896 corridor update, who will give us a short update on the corridor work. And again, as I said, at the end of this discussion, I'll open up the to the floor for about 45 minutes worth of conversation if you have any questions. Okay. All right. With that, Bruce.
Thank you so much. Great to be back with you guys again. I think I have some very good news for everybody concerning this project. We are in the final phases of it. We are anticipating that the plans, estimate, and specifications, which is the package that we give to the contractor community to bid on, will be done. We forecast mid to late summer this year. Then we anticipate opening up the contractor's bids in late summer, early autumn, with an award of that contract scheduled for the end of this year. And then we anticipate construction starting in the spring. So it's been a very long time coming, a lot of design, a lot of community outreach, a lot of input from Franklin Township and London, Britain, and New London. And so I think we're doing well. We're heading in the final stages. There's a lot of property acquisitions along the corridor. We were about 2/3 of the way of securing that. We feel we'll be done with that in a few more months. And then again, putting the final plans together, getting all the approvals that we need to inside PennDOT itself. And then in the schedule I just shared with you, getting out to the contractor community and getting this thing built. Oh, speaking of which, we're anticipating from spring of 2024, about a 2-year time frame. That's partly because the project will be done we're anticipating it in phases, portion here, a portion there, a portion there over time. So we don't have the whole corridor blocked up. And I think that's it. So that's our update for what we're anticipating for the rest of this project.
You said project completion in 2 years?
That's what we're anticipating, yes.
Okay. Well, I'll
So,
open up.
Concerning the Crown Vetch question, I see no reason that Ms. McVeigh needs to give her address over this venue, but if she can get it to the township and get that to me, I will then investigate the seating that's used. And if indeed it is the Crown Vetch, we'll look into the possibility of an alternative for there.
Okay, thank you. And we'll get you the address and contact information.
Thank you.
Hey, Bruce, when you complete the plan, and I guess maybe before the bids or when the bids come out, will you have the segregated plans, like what part is going to start and finish, or is that going to be broken up, or you won't know until you get the bids in?
Yes and no. We've actually had this question several times during the development of the project. So what the design consultant will do is they will put together their suggested staging for that. And we could provide the township with that, but that is considered preliminarily because the contractor has the right to change it. If they think they can do it better, possibly even faster, they have the ability to present a revised plan to PennDOT District Operations Unit. And if that gets approved, that's the staging plan, not the one the designer came up with. But we will have one officially in the bid documents. Hopefully that was clear.
Bruce,
Okay.
Can you hear me? This is Stefan. I'm Torres calling phone here.
Yep.
I just want to double check. When you look on the PennDOT's GIS breakdown map, it looks like it's broken down into various segments, maybe, 5 or 6 different segments.
Correct.
My question is, if that's the case, when a segment is worked on, the rest of 896 is open. Is that correct? But the segment that's being under construction is closed, and then the alternative roads near, like for example, Hessmel Bridge and other roads, Alternative is not the right word, but to avoid
The
the area.
detour, the
Are they
detour
still the
road,
same?
yes.
Yeah, thanks. Detour roads, are they the same as what they were 3 or 4 years ago?
Yes. Yeah, that concept has not changed. Now, the only caveat I'm going to put, I agree with everything you said. The only caveat I'm going to put onto that is it is possible. I'm not saying it's probable, but it's possible for the contractor to say, you know what? The northern end and the southern end of the project are really far apart from one another. I have 2 crews. I can get those both working at the same time and not really cause a traffic conflict. They may choose something of that ilk. They may propose that. They may put that forward to the operations unit, and I think that would get approved. If they were to ask about doing segments adjacent to one another, I don't think necessarily that would get approved. But other than that, yes, how you are interpreting the information on the website is correct, and that is how
joined the meeting.
And that is how the designer has conceived of the staging for the project, and that is why we're anticipating 2 years.
Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
Can you hear us, Donna?
Yes, can you hear me? No?
Do you have any questions for Bruce Massey?
Yeah, it seems like I'm being shut out here. Let me see here.
Donna, we can hear you on Zoom.
Oh, you can. Oh, but they,
Yeah.
so I have no questions.
Okay, thank you.
Sorry
Don?
about that.
Don, any questions?
No.
Okay. All right. Well, at this point, I'd like to open up the floor to any questions from the public. So why don't we start in the room and then we'll go online. We have John, we have a microphone up here in the corner. Oh, you can go around this way. You can go around this way. It's facing that. All right, you can go that way too.
Yeah, that's right.
That's it. We'll just turn it around.
My name is John Auerbach. I'm a Franklin Township resident for the last 44 years, a supervisor for 10 years here. I'm going to draw the board's attention to a section of the recently developed comprehensive plan.
Minneapolis, State of New Jersey, adequate notice of this work session.
Sorry, what was that? Okay, and I'll give you these comments. The section is 6.6-3.2. And the title is to coordinate roadway improvements with integrated strategies that enable farm equipment to travel within the township, especially along main corridors. I'm not going to read the whole thing, but I've just highlighted a few areas that are relevant. And one of the bullet points says, work with the local agricultural community to identify and prioritize roadways that farm equipment will use to travel between destinations, and have a licensed traffic engineer evaluate these roads to determine the impacts and potential improvements necessary to allow farm equipment to travel. And another bullet point, it says explore cooperative agreements between farmers and other landowners to allow farm equipment to travel outside of the public roadways where possible. And then the next point was take into account the impact of curbing when road improvements are being considered, as hard curbs can cause an issue of maneuverability of farm equipment. That's really, the whole section addresses that 6 point. So you could take a look at that. There's other things, and I'm not going to read the whole thing. But the crux of the comments are directed toward the proposed raised curbs that are proposed to be put in Route 896 as you approach Kimballsville from either direction. And the proposed curbs represent a significant obstacle to the travel of farm equipment through Kimballsville. Combines and large hay processing equipment are significantly wider than autos and large trucks. So therefore, I recommend that the islands be deleted from the scope of work for this project. This would not be difficult to implement administratively. A simple paragraph at the beginning of the document would indicate that the islands described in the following scope of work are deleted and the bidder should not include their cost in their bid document. This simple administrative procedure would easily eliminate the curb islands. As an alternate, an image of the proposed islands could be painted on the road surface, providing an indication for normal traffic flow to avoid these areas, but allow farm equipment and trailers exiting driveways the ability to pass over without a physical barrier. On just a general discussion in my time on the board, and is that the township always supported agriculture. We're very pleased that we have real farmers generating crops and raising animals in our township. So the township's always been very supportive of these functions because they're unique for an area like ours, because typically you can't operate a farm in this area with the taxes and land costs we have. And we're pleased we have what we have. So we don't want to do anything to discourage them. That's really the crux of my comment. The only other comment I'd make to Bruce is that years ago, we were concerned about detours that would be necessary that would use Hess Mill Road because there was an old wooden bridge on there. But recently that bridge has been replaced with a reinforced concrete structure with no weight limit. So detours on that road would be appropriate at this point. No further comments.
Thank you. So Bruce, I don't know if you have a response to this, but so Bruce, I'm not sure if you have a response to this, but one of the issues that we have, particularly at what we call the 896 curve, where Appleton Road and 896 meet, and probably the 1 or 2 miles on either side of that intersection, extensive farm equipment uses that area on a daily basis, practically, with very large equipment going up and down the roads. What kind of consideration did PennDOT put in when they did their road planning for this stretch of road to accommodate this farm equipment in this area?
Well, currently 896 has a 12-foot lane and varies from 0 to 4-foot shoulders. What we're proposing throughout the corridor is an 8-foot lane with a 4-foot shoulder, which is actually wider than the travel area that's there now. I would guess, and I could be wrong, that the farm equipment is traversing the area on the pavement that exists today.
Mm-hmm.
And it would seem to me that the pavement we're proposing is wider, so I wouldn't see where there'd actually be an issue.
Okay, thank you.
Is that just a guess, or do we know that for sure? Because this is Donna. This is a big concern for farmers. Bruce, can you go back and check that for us?
Sure.
I guess to understand that comment, Bruce, for myself and maybe some others, is it anticipated that the farm equipment doesn't go over the center line and only uses what's there now? Because sometimes I think it does.
Yeah.
Is that
Well, if today they're going over the center line, if they're going over the center line in order to stay on the pavement today, and the distance that they're going over that center line is 3 feet or less, I would think with the cross section I just described, they'd stay within the lane in the proposed condition. If it's greater than that, yes, they're going to go over the center line. But they're doing it today, and they're doing it for more of a width in the opposing lane than they are today. And the opposing traffic won't have as much room as they'll have tomorrow to move over. because the 4-foot shoulder is on either side.
Okay.
So
Oh,
So I just want to make sure you're seeing this as right now. I know you're going to check on it, but it's not, you don't see this as an issue. You actually see this getting better for the farmers. That's your assessment?
yeah, yes.
Thanks, Bruce.
Hmm.
Thanks, Fred. No, you gotta press the button. Perfect.
Good evening. My name is Jim Brady. I own the property 1703 to 1709 New London Road. One of your proposed medians is going to be directly in front of my property. And I have several reasons here that I'd like not to have it. One, I have a list here of people opposing. That is every resident up and down 896 with addresses that don't want this here. And that's just one of the list. This was the only one I brought. I got other ones from other people in this area, other people in Kimballsville, but these are by address, New London Road, that don't want that one. I'll go into it, but there's some reasons. Now, we all know farming is important to the state of Pennsylvania, and this will shut down the local corridor for many local farmers to move equipment from farm to farm. Now, I'm not sure that Bruce knows that some of this equipment is 14 to 15 feet wide, and they need 16 feet to operate that. I think I'm correct. You guys can correct me on that. There are telephone poles there, and I don't think they're going to be able to navigate in and out and do what they need to do. So I have been to the Farm Bureau and met with them. I've also met with John Lawrence. The Farm Bureau is also working on this to go forward to try to have this stopped as well, because obviously this is very important to the state of Pennsylvania, and that corridor is very important to all these local farmers. And we have a lot of them over here that I may all chime in here a little bit later. That's one concern. The next concern is safety. 60%, and you can check my numbers, of the London Britain fire calls headed out of that station turn left and travel north on Route 896 through this area. That's a narrow corridor. There's no room to pull off. If in fact you place a median where you want to in front of my property, with a clogging effect being caused by traffic in front of it, a rescue vehicle, fire truck, or emergency vehicle will not be able to straddle this median. Now, there's been a lot of talk of what they want to do with this median. I have been back and forth for months on end. Until 3 weeks ago, they couldn't give me the dimensions of it. They still can't give me a side profile, an overhead top profile. And I was in engineering for a number of years, and I know in order to get something approved, you have to draw all this up and submit it for approval. However, no one has provided anything other than what I was able to find. And I have that right here. And it's amazing how many people don't know exactly what this is that they're trying to do. And it's a little bit longer than the 50 feet because this in scale is another 50 feet each direction. Now, one, yes, it does wreck the front of my house, but that's not as important as this safety problem for the fire trucks, fire vehicles, because seconds matter. And certainly, if they can't get a fire and rescue truck, they didn't build that fire station there for no reason. Okay? So in the event of a clogging effect, this could be a real concern. This area is also known for snow drifting and icing in that area. I can't think of the name of the trucking company that goes back and forth there, but they literally will stop there for the wind blowing across those fields into the vineyard. I know it ripped the roof off my building. That's how it picked my building up when we were building the new one, the wind shear across there. But it ices and drifts across that section of 896 on a regular basis. Now, thankfully, this year we haven't had it. Okay. But in normal years, it drifts and ices there very, very badly. If you put a median in the middle of that, it's only going to compound that and create more of a hazard. On a personal note, I've lived here coming up on 30 years. The drive into the historic village of Kimballsville has always been very pretty. I have 90-year-old azaleas. I have a 90-year-old Japanese maple tree, and I have a line of trees on the right-hand side, okay? Yes, they want to take my front yard. Yes, I believe it's going to go into the root structures of those azaleas that Longwood Garden cross-pollinates to save that breed of large azalea. That's the only ones left like it. They don't seem to care. I operate vehicles, trucks and trailers in and out of both of my driveways. It was pretty funny that the Zoom picture here with Franklin Township actually shows a truck coming out with a trailer on it. We had the opportunity when the guys from RCI were there, they were doing surveying. They literally had to pull out wide because there's a telephone pole on 1711. You cannot come out and cut it any which way, and they just put a new telephone pole in. You have to come out wide, as these farmers and anybody that moves any type of equipment have to swing wide on a road to come out. They literally said hi, literally like they could have shook hands with these guys, okay? These are some of my concerns. There are a lot more concerns. I have been to the township here. Jeff and I had conversation. I know he addressed this with Mr. Massey. I also know that Mr. Massey, I had requested a meeting on my property. It was supposed to happen on December 6th. He passed on that meeting saying there was nothing to be discussed. I am not in favor of this, and none of these neighbors and no one else we've spoken to wants that there. And I know that the farmers and the Farm Bureau and John Lawrence, and it goes on and on and on. One more thing I'd like to note, in speaking to the representatives from Arrow and RCI, I have a driveway cutout there presently that they told me that was put in for a state police pull-off. I was very nicely, Jeff helped me. There was the application from 2001 that PennDOT says it doesn't exist, but here it is on paper. So I have a lot of concerns. I've been running circles. No one's really answered anything. And just, I don't know if I should show this. Should I show this, guys? Every now and then you get that. Okay. And yes, there are flagging trucks and trucks with lights on the front of it when they move them, because everything is done by the book. But the biggest problem is these guys view this stuff from Google Earth. They don't set a foot here. They don't take a moment to meet these guys, understand this community, understand this place. This isn't Delaware County. This is Kemblesville. This is a historic little village, and they want to modernize it like New Hope, Yardley, all the places people are moving out of to get rid of that. And I hope everybody, and we're going to keep having people sign this to oppose it and go forward, because we have not stopped. We are going forward. And I don't know what we need to do, but we're going to do it. And I thank you for your time.
Thank you, Jim.
Thank you. I absolutely can. Would you like the list of the residents? Because every one of them is New London Road starting. Okay.
So Bruce, there's a lot with that conversation, but you
We can't hear you.
Your sound cut out.
I'm sorry. Thanks. There's a lot to go over in that comment, but one of the questions that I don't understand is what is the necessity to have the median there in the first place? There isn't a median there now. It looks like it's kind of just in the middle of the road without any. It seems arbitrary that there's a median there. Why is there a median there?
In earlier coordination that we had with Franklin Township asked PennDOT if they would put gateway treatments heading into Kemblesville. That is there because the township asked us to put it there.
Yeah.
If you wish to ask us to remove it, we can remove it. But it is there because the township asked us to do it. And therefore we accommodated the township's request.
Yeah, so David, I remember those conversations. I don't know if John does, but we did. We went out on 896, and I think there was an attempt to try to slow traffic down.
Correct.
Was part of it, and to make the village. I mean, I feel bad for you, Bruce, because I know we kind of told you to do this, and now we're saying we're a different group of people, right? So it's like, I guess it's whoever is talking at the time. There was a group that wanted to have these median strips to make the village more walkable, to slow traffic down. And now we're hearing concerns from another group of people. They're saying this will be problematic, So I don't know how, do we just need to get our act together, the township, and say, do we want this or don't we want this? I don't know, but Bruce is telling the truth. We had this conversation. I remember being out in 896.
Do a comment.
So, yeah. I remember hearing that this was built, came after, but this was being built to slow traffic down. But aren't we gonna have a traffic light right up above this anyway? Isn't it gonna be a
Traffic light.
Three-way
stop?
Three-way
Or,
stop.
okay, so the three-way stop's gonna be put in anyway, right? Just past here, right?
Correct, but what the township had asked is that on the northern approach to Kemmelsville and the southern approach to Kemmelsville, could we do something to slow the traffic down? We proposed what you see in front of us. At the time, we were told, that's great, thank you for including that in the project. So again, I will repeat, Franklin Township asked us to do it. If Franklin Township would want us to remove it, we can. It's up to you. It's your call.
Okay. I think we've heard some, irrefutable evidence that, the township residents don't want it there. So I'm fine with removing it personally. I don't know if you guys.
Yeah, I think it's pretty clear that it's an unpopular decision.
Right.
So
Now, is it for both of them or just this?
I think it would be both of them.
well, I don't know where the other one is.
The other one's
By
down.
the school, right? In front of the school? Isn't that where we were before?
That's correct.
Yeah.
That's correct.
Yeah. So the Campbellsville one is that still an issue?
Yeah, I would think that,
Right.
traffic patterns would go there for what they're talking about, tractors, heavy equipment. And if there is a stop sign there, it's not that far from the school. You
The
can
other
see the
one's
stop
down
sign from there.
By the graveyard, down across from the graveyard.
Okay.
Now, let me propose, because as I'm thinking are doing this and doing it so late in the process, let me ask the following question. If the median and the raised curb would be removed and that would still exist, but only as lane striping, would that address the farm equipment concerns? I would imagine the answer is yes, but I just want to verify that if it would be easier for the department at this late date to not change the plans completely, but merely remove, quote, the obstacle, end quote, and that we would have just a striped area, no curbing there in the center of the road. Would that be an acceptable approach?
There wouldn't be anything in the middle of the road.
No, it would be flat and just paved, but you'd have, you'd almost, it would be what it would be known as a horizontal deflection.
Right.
So the road the lanes would just kind of shimmy on out and shimmy on back in.
Yeah.
But there'd be no obstacles to roll over, whether it be farm equipment, a fire truck, or anything else.
You're shaking your head no.
It serves no purpose. They're cutting into my property to take all
Excuse me, sir. Something that you need to understand. If we were to make this change at this late date, it will not affect the right-of-way acquisition at all. We would still proceed with the right-of-way acquisition that we have. We would we would remove the median. We might even slim the road back in, but we're not going to change the right-of-way take, because that would restart the entire right-of-way process if we were to do that.
Just so you know, I refused to give them my property.
Okay, sir, you earlier on said that your chief concern was the agricultural vehicles in the corridor.
Right. So
And we're addressing that. I believe we are addressing that issue.
Bruce, my concern from day one has been, the front of my property has 90-year-old azaleas. Okay, it has a 90-year-old Japanese maple tree. You're coming in 6 feet, which is into the root structures of the azaleas. It doesn't make any sense. It's a quarter mile from that intersection, which does no calming whatsoever. Okay, everyone that is signed there, and I have many more pages, will be more than happy to turn them over. Does not want that. It makes no sense to wreck the drive into Kemblesville. Matter of fact, if you go into Southern Pennsylvania history, there's a picture taken right in front of my house to the drive into Kemblesville in the 1800s and then into the 1900s. It makes no sense to make, it's similar to Harmony Road in Newark, Delaware, where they put all these in, then they took them out and the road being straight is just perfect.
In Franklin Township.
Like to leave the road straight is what I like to do. Leave it as it stays today. With the trees on one side, you can widen the shoulders and do what you need to do there. And the drainage, actually, I have the only drain in all of Kemblesville, so it's worked fine. But if you need to address that a little bit, we don't have any flooding like you do down in front of the shopping center at Flint Hill and 896. That area is pretty good, short of drifting snow across there, which won't be complicated with no median. But I don't want it to come into my yard. It makes no sense. It does nothing.
So Bruce, is it possible to do nothing? Is there another reason why you need to take part of the property of this gentleman? Is there something else that we're missing?
That median was placed there, again, I'll repeat myself, was placed there at the request of the township, and the department accommodated that request.
Right.
The design of the road, the design of the road is predicated upon that. All the right-of-way takes along that are predicated upon that. If we were to say, okay, we're going to get rid of the median, we're going to get rid of the vertical deflection, we're going to get rid of all of that, and adjust the right-of-way accordingly, that will push this project out for 6 months.
We wait this long. I mean, if that doesn't scare me. 6 months.
And I do not know that with the adjustment in the right-of-way acquisition, if indeed the plantings that the gentleman's concerned about would actually not be touched. I don't know that for fact.
So I think, listen, I want to continue this conversation, let people ask questions, but as far as what our final, as far as adjusting the plans and dealing with what's happening also with the traffic calming in the Kemblesville, I don't think we can make a decision now because this is kind of the first time we're discussing this. So we should have this discussion with Bruce at a later time, but I want to keep asking the questions, but I don't think we're ready as a board to make unilateral decisions this evening, particularly because it ties in with what's going on in the Kemblesville Village as well. I don't know if you agree with that.
Yeah, I just don't want to, I mean, I hear what you're saying. We can't do it today, but we need to do it soon because.
No, that's why I think the next week or so, we need to reconvene and discuss this.
Okay, great.
Yeah.
And maybe Bruce, you could go back and find out what is possible. If we got rid of the median, would it save this gentleman's property, or is there a way to do that? We can
look into that.
Okay, I appreciate that, Bruce. Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
And Bruce, can you have ready, to tell us what restarting the plan would entail as well? And maybe a timeline?
Okay.
Okay, thank you.
Okay. Any other comments, questions from the room?
Just have one question for you.
Oh, can you open the turn on that?
If you look at that map, by doing nothing, they literally have to straighten the orange and green line 150 feet. That means they don't have to excavate and or widen, which means it saves them money. And any contractor that can't use a level and shoot a laser straight might not be the guy you want doing this job. It's kind of pretty simple what they're doing there. You're simply making straight instead of going out and in and out and in. And
yeah.
It seems like it's not rocket science. I mean, I did engineering and design and drawing of this nature for a lot of years, and simply connecting the dots in a straight line, you're done. That's my 2 cents.
All right. Thank you.
Can I ask you, is this the vineyard right here?
Yes, it is me.
Okay, and the Ellers, Larry Eller?
The Haas's house is right The Haas's house is right there, one down.
Okay.
That's the Haas's.
Okay.
And then that's the house next to, I think Jim Hill owns the house right to the right of you, where you are. Yep.
Okay.
And then I'm all the way from driveway to driveway. There's stakes out there of what they're doing, and I don't know exactly because they didn't stake it to where that area was. They just put stakes at one end and the other, and they didn't, where they were actually trying to do it, they didn't put it there for some reason.
I think they put them where the driveway.
Yeah, but it swells out and swells in, so it doesn't show you anything. But it'd be very simple to just make those lines straight.
All right, thank you. I want to allow other people to ask questions. So
Absolutely.
thank you
I
very much for
appreciate your
comment.
time, everybody.
Appreciate
Thank
it.
you.
So anyone else in the room like to make some comments before we move to folks online? Push that right button. Yeah. There you go.
Hello, I'm Scott Wilkinson, landowner on Appleton Road. And I move a lot of farm equipment from Virginia to Cochranville, Pennsylvania. We have large, wide equipment. We try to have escorts in front of us. I was talking to some friends tonight and they said, come over and see. Some of my concerns was we farm a lot around West Grove, Cochranville, Oxford. They made it so narrow we can't get through the center of towns. And we're working with Farm Bureau to see if they could let us run some of the wider equipment down like Route 1 bypass. We do, there's other people that do it now and it says no motorized vehicle. There's signs up, but it's much safer for us to be on a big road. And we use 896 from, when we leave Landenberg to go down. And my concern is how tight. And it sounded like he addressed some of the questions without the road curb. That's a big plus for our situation. But I do have tractor and trailers that come through the village of Kimballsville. We try to be courteous and try to not get mud on the road, but the township has called before when we had other issues. But when we can try to avoid coming through town, we do. But we had the same issues around Middletown, Delaware. They put weigh stations in and then they put no trucks on most of all the small roads. So then we are local, but it's still, we get stopped. And if there's a new officer, we have trouble at that. So we hope to continue to keep coming through this area because we do farm a lot of ground in the state of Maryland. I have like 4,000 acres within 4 miles of here. So it's a lot of truck traffic. We do spray, we use chemicals, we make dust, we make noise, but we try to be friendly to the area. So that's why I'm here tonight. So thank you.
Sir,
Scott,
may I ask you a question before you
Yes.
go? So you have taken large agricultural equipment through Campbellsville today, correct?
Correct.
When you go through there, when you run your equipment, are you over the double yellow line or do you stay within the lane?
Yeah, we're over the yellow line.
Do you know off the top of your head approximately?
Probably
distance?
my widest piece of equipment's like 16 feet wide.
Okay, so you're about 4 feet over then.
Yes.
Okay, thank you.
So Scott, you were saying if we do, I know we haven't done it yet, but decide not to raise that median part, if we decide to keep it flat and we keep it just the way it is now, you'll be okay?
Yes.
Okay.
Our biggest struggle in 896 is at the Maryland, Delaware, Pennsylvania line, right through there, and obviously the turn right in Kimballsville.
Okay. Thanks.
Have you had a chance to see the proposed turn?
I have not, and I was hoping I could see it.
Yeah,
or sometimes
we'll be able to show you that.
Yeah, because we get pretty close to that wall sometimes, right in front of Mr.
I think
Ford's house.
it should be better when this is.
Yeah, that'd be great.
We got to all look at it again. Yeah.
Knock on wood.
Okay, thank you.
Anyone else in the room would like to make a comment? Okay, Jay.
Jay Brown, Maple Grove Farm, over on Old Schoolhouse Road. We come through here with hay binders and stuff, and it doesn't make sense if you're 14 or 16 foot wide to go narrow it up when you can come up through there now with no trouble. You got to lay over, you're 4 feet over the yellow line or whatever. So now you're going to make it harder and curves. And I was in West Grove. They narrowed that up, blew a tar on a JCB, and now they approved it to be narrow. Now they're going, 2 years, they're taking it back out, making it wider in West Grove. Okay. Kenneth Square headed towards Willowdale 52. They put a new development in and they're fighting that now. They've had accidents here with that thing that you're just talking about, put in to slow traffic down. And they're fighting that to get that back out of there. So what you're doing is you're just creating more headaches when maintenance to put this in when you can do it other places where we do need it. It just don't make any sense. I mean, it's wide and all you, like if you, like he says, if you widen the shoulder a little bit, go to Maryland and see how wide a shoulder they have, you know, and stuff. They got the circles in different places, but when the big straightaways, you know, they got it where you can get over a little bit and the traffic keeps moving, you know. You don't need, go to Chatham 41. That's supposed to be a 35 mile an hour. They go through there just lickety split and accidents and everything else, you know. So you need the road wider and your guys are putting the things in to slow traffic down. It doesn't slow traffic, trucks slow down, but these little cars and stuff, they keep rolling. They don't, I mean, it's just, it don't even make sense. And then we're out here in the country and you want to fix it up like you're in the city. You moved out here. What the hell is the issue? Do some stuff, but you don't have to have a guarantee for everything. And that's what the government wants, guarantee for everything. It costs a lot more money. So that's my opinion.
Thank you, Jay.
I wouldn't put it in. I mean, I think you'll have issues, especially older people. When a fire truck comes, this thing's narrow and curves. I blowed $1,000 tar and I think it was his tar. I borrowed it off of him and it wasn't no good. And I was at the red light. The boy working for me, we drove it down to the railroad track and let it sit there overnight. I'd go by, and in West Grove. Now they're going to take it out. Within 2 years, it's too narrow, too many, a lot of trouble.
Yeah, for sure.
And what do you got to say about that, Mr. State Man?
I'm assuming that you're referring to me.
Yes, I am.
Okay, and as I said before, PennDOT could remove the curb in the median and just leave the pavement there, which actually, ironically, would give you a little bit more pavement in both those areas on the north side of Campbellville and on the south side. So I think that approach would address your concern.
For 16 or 14 foot wide?
The lane is, Tom, correct me, is the lane 11 or 12 feet?
The lane's 11, the shoulder is 4.
Okay, so that's 15 feet right there. And there's 15 feet on the other side, which is 30, which is more than you have in most of the corridor now. And in those two areas where the median is proposed, Tom, how wide is the median at its widest point? Do you know off the top of your head?
I think it's 4 feet.
Okay, so that would be 34 feet, where today you would have between 24 and 26.
And Jay, I think Bruce is telling us we as a board need to get our act together and we need to make a decision. So they can get rid of it if we can come back to them with that decision. So I don't want to beat up Bruce. I mean, I think he's trying to give us an alternative here if we decide to take it.
Well, is this the suburbs of Philadelphia or is this still a little bit of Franklin Township country? You know, what do you want? You didn't want houses. Now you got what? Open space, you bought ground, you got a few farmers that hung around here, and then you continue to start doing more stuff all the time because you got somebody speeding that'll speed no matter where it is. So What I need to do is sell my place and put houses on it, and then you go right on. And then they can have a lot of these things to slow them down. But I don't want to do that, but it might come someday. But anyway, I think it's a waste of money and time. You can dress the road up each side a little bit wider and things will work good. You're always going to have a speed guy that's going in to turn too fast. You got all the truck traffic off of it. There's very little truck traffic anymore. My daughter and son-in-law own 2 houses right up above this picture here. And, it's supposed to be a historical place, but what happened to this historical, what the township started doing, now they're not doing it no more. So, I mean, things happen. So why go and spend the money and do what you're doing when it doesn't need to be? Okay, thank you.
Any other comments from the room? I'm good.
I don't.
Make some comments during your that's the plan. These are trouble.
Yes, I'm Dave Hawking, Chester Hills Farm. Over the years, it's been necessary to have a transport vehicle run ahead of everybody, kind of slow the traffic down, but not everybody wants to do that. And we got people shooting up driveways and everything like that, but we don't need it any narrower. Like I say, I have a farm on Appleton Road as well, and that's a main drag for us to go through there. Like I say, the combines are wide, the balers are wide, and we have to be careful anyway for oncoming traffic. So, and we travel to Maryland and Delaware also. So,
What's the width on your
with the head, it's 20 foot. Mostly transport time, it's a little over 12, but it takes up more than you're over the yellow line. And if you're not, you're busting off mailboxes or telephone pole right there, or somebody's got crap planted out along the edge of the road. So although you run up everybody's bank, you're still under the state right of way or the township right of way. But you do make a mess just trying to get over. So we need to keep it wider. We don't need to go faster. We just need the width. Tractor trailers, they need extra room to make their turns. I know Kimmelsville's a nasty spot, always has been. Just got to slow down. Everybody go work on the road together. I was on the comprehensive committee. I know the bikers got their rights to ride too, but it creates a big problem, especially rush hour.
Sure.
Trying to get around the bikers. That's about all I got to say. Is keep things open.
All right. Thank you.
And we'll slow down, but you got to keep things open.
All right. Thank you. Appreciate your comments. I think that's everybody in the room. So folks online, do we have any comments from people online? And I think you might need to unmute people if they throw their hands up. And if you do have a comment online, you might need to unmute your mic. Okay, we'll start with Sue. Sue, you can go ahead. Looks like you're unmuted. Sue Brofman. Okay, well, why don't we go to LBT Roads?
Can you hear me?
We can.
My name's Ryan Mullen. I'm the roadmaster for London Britton Township. I was just curious what side Bruce is planning on starting, if he's going to start like at Chambers Rock Road or up by Hess Mill.
Tom, can you address that? Did we anticipate on our staging plan starting from the north, I believe?
Give me 1 second.
And while Tom's looking to verify my recollection, I just want to restate again that the staging plan that will be part of the bid package is what the designer has come up with, and that the traffic unit will eventually approve. But the contractor could decide to take a different approach. And if indeed that changed approach is approved by the district's operations unit, that would be the staging plan that gets implemented.
Right. So the way we currently have it laid out, and there are a few different areas of full depth reconstruction, and that's kind of the way that we organized what's done in what sequence. The way that we have it laid out, the first work area is actually towards the north end of the project.
That's what I thought.
Yeah, it's actually up near the north end of Den Road, not the end closest to 841, but the north end of Den Road. That's where we have the project starting.
Okay. So what we proposed, Tom, to simplify it, would be the areas where we have most of the construction, where we would be excavating. In other words, where we're taking the humps out of the hills, that's where we're going first.
Yes.
Okay. And if memory serves correctly, we did that because we need the fill when we get to the roundabout at 841 and 892. Okay. Okay.
All
So
right. Thank you.
hopefully that answers your question.
Yeah, thank you very much.
Okay. Thank you, Tom.
Any other questions from folks online? So folks, now is the time to ask your questions.
May I ask a question, please?
You may.
On the south side, come from the Delaware line, where's everything going to start from?
The project area starts slightly south of Chambers Rock Road. Tom, do you off the top of your head know the distance south of Chambers Rock?
About 700 feet.
Okay, 700 feet south. And that puts us what, about, is it half a mile, quarter mile, a mile from the border? Do you know off the top of your head?
Oh, I do not know.
Okay, sorry. So 700 feet south of Chambers Rock Road.
So that would be part of Strickersville Road. Sorry, where you're going to straighten that and come around the corner, which will be in London, Britain, and then bring it into Franklin, correct?
Yes, we would start south of Chambers Rock, go past Chambers Rock, Stricklerville and London Track, and go into Franklin, go into Campbellsville, which is Franklin Township, correct?
Okay, then Mr. Brown and Mr. Hockey, that's where they picked up from.
All right.
Picked up what?
All right. Thank you, Jim. Do we have any other questions from folks online?
Yes, hi, this is Dave Galligan from the Plow Harrow Farm at 896, 841. And I'm just asking that we at some point identify a single source or page we can go to where the calendar of events is listed that we can plan on, because we're going to have to plan pre-purchasing of hay and things like that once things are evolved, and we're going to need months of advance notice to get that stuff done. And I'm sure other people have those same types of issues.
And Mr. Galligan, I'm always willing to post and make a page for PennDOT for schedules or notices.
Okay.
So that's easy for the township to do.
Okay. Well, I think we ought to make sure we have a central location that has, quality information on time, and then everyone can go to that. That'd be wonderful. Thank you.
Yeah, I think the key is, Bruce, that information gets to Jeff. I assume that's your plan, right? That you would get as the information becomes available and it gets updated, you'll make sure Jeff has that.
Yeah, the contractor, once they are awarded, will develop a schedule that will be shared with the PennDOT construction unit. something I guess would be helpful to share. From when the contract is awarded, my involvement becomes very little. It'll now go to the construction unit side. I'm design side. That doesn't mean I'll disappear. I mean, I'm still around. I get questions during construction all the time for why certain decisions were made during design. But for the day-to-day operations, there'll be a given individual. That individual won't be chosen until the contractor is awarded the work to proceed. And then construction schedules will be created, and I will absolutely give them Jeff's contact information, and then the continued liaison and exchange and coordination and cooperation that's been going on with all the townships, but specifically Franklin Township onward. That'll continue, and then as Jeff said, he can post it on the township site.
Great, thanks.
Hey, Bruce, once the contract is awarded to the contractor, does PennDOT have checkpoints that they look at, or is it just now it's the contractors until it's done?
I'm not quite sure I understand your question.
So does PennDOT actually go, I don't know, once a quarter to make sure that the contractor is doing things?
I see. Okay. Actually,
sorry.
PennDOT is on site all the time.
Oh,
There
okay.
is what's known as an IIC, and that is an inspector in charge. That's what IIC stands for.
Okay.
Inspector in charge. And it also, some people call it a resident engineer. That's an individual who represents PennDOT, who's on site, coordinates a contract on a day-to-day basis. That actually may be the contact person for Jeff. There's an individual above that person called the assistant, and that's the ace. It might be that person. I won't know until the contract's awarded, and that's when the construction unit staff is assigned. But when I do know who that is, I will provide that information. But it'll be on a daily basis that PennDOT will be involved.
Got you. Thank you very much.
All right, so we're over time at this point. So I would like to ask for maybe one more question from the folks online, and then we can close out. Anyone else online have a question or comment for PennDOT or the township? Going once, twice? Okay. Mr. Brady, you have another comment before you leave? Okay.
I just have one quick question here. And I'm going to turn this on because these guys can help. Just touching back on this one more time, not to beat a dead horse. These gentlemen have run their tractors through the front of my property. As 896 exists right now, you have no problem whatsoever, do you, gentlemen? No. So therefore, there's no reason to swell this road just to put stripes on it. Okay, there's no problem. You guys have run everything. God knows I've waved them, every one of you, and you've been doing it for 28 years I've been here, and I know a lot longer than that. So if this gets removed or not constructed, I'd like to leave this road straight and leave it alone because they don't need any more room. They have no problems in this area, correct? And I think the Farm Bureau and every farmer in this area will tell you the same thing. That's all. Just wanted to clarify that.
All right.
Thank you again for your time, and
All right,
hopefully
thank
we
you.
can get that deleted. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Yep.
All right, thank you. And Bruce and Tom, I'd like to thank you both for coming and fielding questions and allowing our township to make their comments and concerns known. And for everybody online who participated, thank you very much. This was a good conversation.
Dave, could I make one very short comment? I know you're running over on time, and I know people probably think my comment on this invasive plant is not a big deal. It is. When a whole state, bans it, it's a big deal. We should look into it. But also all this, I understand the concern about moving farm equipment, but what I have not heard is traffic calming. We desperately need traffic calming. I don't want them to take part of my backyard. but if it will calm the traffic on 896, it's a good thing. So we need to look at that. And I want to compliment Bruce for being so on point and so trying to work with us. So the discussion goes on. Thank you.
Thank you, Mary. All right. Thank you again, everybody. I've lost my place. All right, here we go. So we'll close out this conversation with PennDOT, and I think we can move on to the second and last topic for the evening, which is our current MS4 planning. And we'll be talking with our Arrow consultants. I think Andrew, you're on with us. Would you like to start off that conversation?
Yes, good evening. Can everyone hear me okay?
Yep, you sound good.
Okay. Thank you everyone for having me this evening. My name is Andrew Talea. I work for Arrow Consulting, and we have been working with Franklin Township since about December to comply with its MS4 permit responsibilities. And I had attended a meeting last month where we spent a lot of time going over a number of topics, including Arrows and LTL, who is the former MS4 consultant for the township. We met with LTL to understand from their perspective where the township was at with MS4 compliance. We met with Mr. Guy Donatelli, the township solicitor, to discuss MS4 from his experience with the township. And we've met with the township manager as well, Jeff Eastburn, to get some background about MS4 from his perspective. And then at the last board meeting, I got a lot of information from the board about their historic work with MS4 and their understanding of where the township's at. So what I've done tonight is I provided a brief memo just outlining some of the activities that Arrow and the township manager and the township solicitor has taken part in January and February. And again, I believe last meeting we identified a number of things that we need to get done, whether it's short term or long term. And so the big things that I'd like to just run by the board tonight are action items, specifically to be completed potentially within the next month. And so specifically what I'll be asking for permission to move forward with tonight is three things really. One, to complete outfall inspections as required by the township's MS4 permit, to complete BMP inspections, not only as required under the township's MS4 permit, but also in an effort to try to finish the township's TMDL plan, as well as in preparation for potentially having to draft the township's pollution reduction plan. And the third thing that I'll be asking for permission for is to follow up with Pennsylvania DEP in reference to specific correspondence that they had provided with the prior engineer, LTL. And so I'll go through each of those three topics. And if there's any other topics that we want to discuss that are from the January and February meeting, we can also go over those as well. So on the first topic, outfall inspections, I know that we've discussed that the current permit the township has applied for MS4 coverage is really up in the air. Our 2018 NOI submission and associated documents have not technically been approved by DEP, which from my interpretation means that the township is still covered under the prior general permit, and the prior general permit states that all outfalls must be inspected for the current permit cycle by March 15th, 2023. So what that would entail is Arrow coming out, spending most likely a day or two looking for dry weather flow from outfalls that have not been inspected in the past 5 years, as well as about 20 or so outfalls where dry weather flow was noted during last year's outfall inspections. And we could really get that done as soon as the board would give approval. The thing we have to watch out for is weather. And even tonight, we'll see if it rains or not, but we have to have at least 48 hours of dry weather to complete those inspections. And again, under the township's prior permit, which is from our understanding still active, we are to have all outfalls inspected by March 15th of 2023, which is next Wednesday.
So,
Comments?
So sorry, maybe just so I can understand here, I've got this pretty extensive list of properties in Franklin Township that have BMPs and outfalls. These are, homeowners with, well, either BMPs or outfalls. Are these what you're suggesting that we inspect?
So that comprehensive list actually leads into the second action item, which is to inspect stormwater BMPs within the township. Under the township's current MS4 permit, which is the permit that was in existence prior to the NOI submission back in 2018, the township basically has to confirm that all stormwater BMPs that were installed to satisfy post-construction stormwater responsibilities are being maintained properly. And in speaking with the prior consultant, they were not confident that really any inspections have been occurring, at least since they've taken over working with the township. And on top of that too, the mapping we have for BMPs is while it's a good start, we don't have the actual basin boundaries defined at all. So really, one, that list is a comprehensive list of all properties that may have either an outfall or a stormwater BMP on the property, or may be adjacent to an outfall or a stormwater BMP to their property. And the reason we had to be the reason I took the approach of selecting so many properties is because in your GIS mapping of your stormwater system, each BMP is reflected by a point. So we essentially had to do a spatial query to say, select all the properties that may intersect where we think the stormwater basin is. And then we did a selection of the county parcel data to identify any property that may have a stormwater BMP or an outfall on or adjacent to the property. So in other words, it might have gone a little above and beyond all the properties that actually have those on premises. But if the idea is that we'll be coming out to do a multi-day inspection, in order to avoid people the idea would be to give people a heads up that we're coming out. And then if they see somebody out, granted we'll have identification on, but we wanted to potentially identify properties where we may need to enter from a easement that was established when the stormwater BMP was put in, or if we're out adjacent to that property, we want to be transparent with property owners to say that we're coming out to do X, Y, and Z.
So these inspections are a requirement.
Yeah. So under the MS4 permit, municipalities have to confirm that all stormwater BMPs are being maintained, whether it's by the municipality coming out and doing them, or it's by the property owner verifying that they are maintaining and inspecting their facilities and submitting records to the township if requested. And on top of that too, the township's ordinance actually states that all stormwater BMPs, once established, are either dedicated to the township or assigned responsibility to that property owner. And so it states that once you have a BMP that would be under a private property owner's responsibility, they are provided with an O&M agreement. And in that O&M agreement, it says it states what maintenance needs to be conducted at what frequency by that property owner.
So, okay. So this is a requirement that you must do these inspections. There's an extensive list of folks here that have potential BMPs or outfalls to be inspected. You find that some or all, or maybe none, have been maintained. is then what is the next step? Does the township take ownership and must repair these, or is there some agency that compels homeowners to take care of the BMPs? What's the through line here?
So, under the ordinance, it states that if a BMP has not been dedicated to the township, it is the responsibility of that owner to maintain the stormwater BMP. And if that owner does not maintain the BMP, the township can choose to exercise its enforcement rights under the ordinance to tell somebody that they have to bring this facility up to code based upon their O&M agreement and the site plan that was approved. On top of that, the township ordinance actually does say that if there's a direct risk to human health or safety, that the township can actually go in and repair that private, stormwater facility if it deems reasonable. So our plan is to get a inventory of BMPs and identify any BMPs that pose a major health or safety risk, as well as any BMPs from our perspective that may not be functioning correctly. And then on a case by cases, work with the township manager and the solicitor to pull up any historic documents that we would need to find out who's responsible, what their actual maintenance responsibilities are, and then go forward with that information. But on top of that, we also need that information of where these BMPs are at to delineate the actual boundary of each BMP and to identify which BMPs are functioning and which are not as part of the township's TMDL plan, which we need to revise and resubmit, as well as the pollution reduction plan that we need to draft and submit. So I guess the objective is to, one, evaluate BMPs to see if they're being maintained per the township ordinance, as well as have that inventory, that information that will be used for our TMDL and PRP plan resubmissions and calculations.
Okay.
Andrew, thank you for that. That was helpful. Quick question: when we look at the all these MPs, is there a way of calculating how many points we would get for our TMDL that would satisfy? And hopefully I don't get my acronyms messed up here, but satisfy our MS4. Like if we go out there and look at the various issues on the ordinances for stormwater management on an individual lot basis or individual area basis, and that's one way of tackling our obligation. How many points and I know point is not the right word, but how many points do we get for that?
Yeah, so each the amount of credits that each stormwater BMP provides in terms of lowering your pollution reduction plan or TMDL requirements is based upon the drainage area size. And so so what you would do is you would take the drainage area into that basin and then calculate the types of land use, whether it's impervious or non-impervious. And then based upon the drainage area size and the type of BMP gives a percentage in terms of how much sediment is reduced from runoff going into that facility based upon treatment. It spits out a number of how much treatment that stormwater facility provides. So it's directly based upon the drainage area size of a BMP and the type of BMP, which dictates how much credit you would get. And so the idea would be that we would want to identify all BMPs that we can claim credit for, run those calculations, and then use those calculations to lower the township's pollution reduction plan and TMDL requirements.
Right.
And
So
how many of these stormwater management opportunities, these BMPs, are there approximately? What's the total range? I know you could probably use one standard deviation or so and get pretty accurate to the amount of reduction that we're targeting. What you would help me out? It would be just to get a one-pager or two-pager of all the various things we can do for pollution reduction, and with a range 1 to whatever, 1.5 standard deviations, and then come up with like, okay, these are what we can do. This is the cost. This is reasonable. And I know the bar keeps moving, and it's not your fault or our fault, but to have a booklet or something that we can at least take a look at, because 5 years ago, we thought that tree planting was the way to go from a cost, from a pollution reduction per cost way of thinking about things. So, you know, since things have changed a little bit, I would love, maybe, and again, maybe it's too early, but that's something that for me to look at something like that would be helpful.
Yeah, I think we have to do that inventory first, though, right? I mean, Andrew, it just sounds like you're kind of starting from the beginning, and then no fault of yours. And like, we probably should have had this done ourselves, but you have to go figure out what's out there with the outfalls, and then figure out the BMPs where they're at, and then figure out the status of them, which ones are compliant, which ones aren't, and then bring that back to us and say, okay, this is what I found, and this is at least a start to talk about how we move forward for the TMDL plan. Is that not accurate?
Yeah, so our goal would be to take the mapping that has already been completed as a guide and essentially visit each stormwater BMP, get some really good photos, with a GPS unit, potentially delineate the boundary of each stormwater BMP, and then with that information, essentially update the existing mapping and list of BMPs that the township already has, and then confirm whether or not the facility is being maintained, and we can use it for pollution reduction plan credit, and then also rerun the calculations to essentially take into account the size of the drainage area, the size of the actual BMP structure, and to generate a current credit received number for each BMP, and then basically take those treatment numbers and put them in your PRP and TMDL plans. Because I know from talking with LTL, you know, one of the comments that was received on the township's prior TMDL plan submission was just a comment about how those current pollution reductions were calculated. And so LTL actually advised that we would start fresh and do our own calculations to establish a baseline. So yeah, our goal would be to do this field effort and then come up with a list of every single BMP within the township. And then from there, we can run calculations and identify these are the projects that'll get us the biggest bang for our buck, and then work off of that list to potentially identify which properties we can do BMP projects on to meet these plan requirements, but also identify who the property owners are, because if the private properties, will have to obviously get buy-in from that property owner to do these projects. So, because I know that there's about 25, I think there's 25 BMP retrofits that were proposed to fulfill the TMDL plan requirement, and just coming in fresh. One, I'm not sure. I can't say with 100% certainty that the calculations that were initially proposed, that all these projects were provider accurate. And also, I'm not sure if there's been any discussion, obviously, or even identification of who the property owner is, and if they even be willing to work with the township to do these projects. So yeah, this effort would be used to come up with a comprehensive list of BMPs that provide treatment, and then prioritize BMPs based upon how much credit we can get, and then use that list to try to fulfill the township's TMDL and PRP plan requirements.
Right, and I believe you put in the document that you gave us for today's meeting was that I think you had down there, we'd have this thing done relatively quickly, and I think it was $4,800 to do this work, which would be the least to do the inspections. I don't think we have a choice. I think it has to be done. I think it's basic to get this whole thing going in terms of how we get back to DEP. I do want to comment on the third part, which was to meet with the DEP. And I think before we even talk about meeting with DEP, I think we have to get some of this work done. We have to get this mapping done, get the outfalls inspected, and then come into the DEP with our position. So I know you have in the document you gave us some questions for DEP. I always prefer going to a regulatory authority with our position, And we can't develop a position until you do some of this basic work. So I'm highly supportive of you doing this groundwork about the inspections and then coming back to us with your assessment, and then we can talk about what we do with DEP, a meeting with DEP. But I think it's too premature right now to meet with DEP until we get some of this basic work done first.
Understood. Yeah. And I guess, from my perspective, I think, like you stated, we're going to have to meet with DEP eventually. So whether we request, at this point, whether we reach out to them, tomorrow or a month from now, I can't say if it's going to make an ultimate difference. Again, they're the ones who said that they want to meet with us. So they could potentially follow up with us tomorrow and request it again. So
well, that's even more, right? That's even more reason for us to get going, because I would like you, when we finally do meet with DEP, for us to say, yes, I've been to all the outfalls and they're doing fine. We have identified the BMPs and this is what the status is. And yes, we are working on our updated permit. We want to talk to you about the comments that you gave us in December 2022. And these are our issues. So you go there knowing something and being able to have an interaction with them, as opposed to you not knowing some of this fundamental work. And then it's not going to be as productive of a meeting.
Understood. Yeah. I think, again, the BMP inspections, in my opinion, are the most vital thing for the PRP or TMDL plans. The outfall inspections are just a requirement that we have to do regardless, which don't have necessarily as much of an impact on the PRP and TMDL plans. But from our perspective, if we're going to be out there looking at all these areas anyway, we might as well get our outfall inspections done.
Right. And when you go to DEP, you can say, I've done that. So
right.
It's always good to say, yes, we're following, because as you said, we don't have an approved plan, but so we're working under the old plan. So at least we can say that we're following the requirements of the old plan as best we can. And this is what we found. So it shows intent. It shows that we're not ignoring our obligations and we're doing the best to comply. And I think that will, they can still be angry, but it shows that we are trying to do the right thing.
Hey, Andrew, if I can address the outfalls, it seems like the deadline is March 15th. Apple weather tells me it's going to rain like at least 3 days this week and maybe 4 if it rains till tomorrow morning, tonight. What happens if we don't get them done by the 15th?
Yes.
So if we don't get them done by the 15th, technically you're not complying with your permit that is currently in place.
Okay. So
well, then again, what's the impact of that? Right. So we're not compliant. So what happens?
Nothing.
I don't know if you can hear that, if you heard me, but yeah, the point would be, like, we understand that we wouldn't be in compliance. So what's the impact?
I guess from my perspective, the impact is just more potential risk from the township to be found not compliant with your permit. And I think, granted, there's a number of things we could probably pick out to say that we're not being. There are probably a number of things that, in all reality, DEP could pick apart right now and say you're not compliant with your current permit. So just for this specific requirement, outfall inspections, it's just one more thing that we would not be compliant with.
So the important thing here is to just get moving on this stuff to show that we're actually getting the job done. Okay.
Exactly. Yeah. So it's the 17th as opposed to the 15th, right? They're not going to lose sleep over it. It's just that we can't sit on it for another 2 months. We have to. We got to show intent. Show. It's just like work. David, it's the same crap. We got to show that we're moving forward.
Yep.
Donna, I agree with everything you said there, but I just wonder, to be devil's advocate, doesn't it make possible sense to get in touch with DEP, especially, and let them know that we've received your information. We have a new engineer. We are working on this.
Yeah,
there's a chance due to weather that, if we don't make March 15th because of weather, that we need to be maybe proactive and say, we are working on this. We're taking it seriously. And we have a new engineering company that's working with us. We understand how important this is. But if we can't, especially if we cannot make it by March 15th.
Stefan, that assumes rationality.
Okay.
No, I mean, I think you can, I guess it all depends how fast we can turn this stuff around, because I would like to have a meeting with DEP in April, but we have to get some of this stuff done. So.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I think if we schedule the meeting, I mean, to Stefan's point, I think he's got a good point. My wisecrack aside, it's if we schedule a meeting further enough out where we have all this pre-work done, then at least they know we're coming and we're not going to get a surprise inspection or whatever. But not that I think we're really worried about that.
Yeah, but before we schedule a meeting, I would like to talk. So we had these comments from DEP in December, and I could have missed the email, but I don't remember ever going through those comments with LTL, and that's in the past. But I would love to go through the comments with you, Andrew, and just figure out what were DEP's comments and how far apart are we from what they want us to do. And I'd like to do that sooner rather than later. It definitely has to be done before we meet with them. Because David, did you ever? I mean, I don't remember seeing it.
No, I don't think we ever discussed it.
Yeah.
Yeah, for sure we didn't discuss it. So I think that's the next step for sure. And so I guess you're asking with the question on the second bullet here, which is the proposed field efforts. I think the answer to your question about whether the board's approving this,
Yes.
everyone is nodding their head yes. You should go ahead and do that as part of your.
Can you make a motion, David? Do you have to make a motion to?
Yeah, so I guess we need a motion. So I make a motion that Arrow and Engineering conduct the proposed field efforts to be completed in March of 2023. Can I, as outlined in the memo of March 6th, can I have a second? Thank you, Don. Any discussion? Okay, all in favor, say aye. Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, say nay. All right, motion carries 5-0.
Andrew, when do you think we can realistically talk about this again with the board?
Specifically, the comments that DEP has provided to the township. So in the township's last TMDL submission, those comments.
That would be helpful. And then get a report on what you found out in the field would be helpful.
So I'm sorry, Jeff. I was just going to say I could work on I could give you a report this week on what the comments were, as well as so there's the actual comment letter from 2020, but then on top of that there is individual email correspondence that DEP had given LTL. So some of the comments had begun to been addressed by LTL without resubmitting, and then there were some comments that DEP had provided LTL as LTL was intermittently addressing those comments last fall and winter. So what I'll do is I can this week prepare. I can just get the list of comments that were provided in the last official review letter, and then I can also provide a list of comments that were provided from DEP to LTL via email last fall and winter, and I could have that ready for the board's review. I believe the next meeting is the 15th, correct? Is that the next supervisor meeting?
So Bruce, just a point. So you can give us the paperwork, but it's really going to be important for me anyways to get your assessment of it. So, I mean, I can read the back and forth and I will do that, but I would like to get your assessment of, okay, based on these comments, where are the holes, where are the gaps? So that may take you a little bit more time to do some of that thought process. So DEP says X, what does it mean? So what's the implication of it? So can you put that level on top? So don't just give me what DEP said and what LTL said, but give me what you think and think of where we're at based on this. I think that's gonna be more important for the board.
Yeah.
Can we do that at the April 3rd workshop meeting?
Yes.
Andrew?
Yes, we can have that prepared by the April 3rd meeting, if
That'd be
not the
great.
week prior.
I think at that point your inspection should be done as well, so we can kind of go over both.
be an MS4 meeting, right? It's just April.
Right. And just one thing I want to point out, I believe on the actual letter that we were going to send out to residents, announcing that we're coming out to do this work, the date that we had put on there was March 13th for the start date. Looking at the weather, we actually may be able to squeeze in outfall inspections potentially Thursday and the first half of Friday. From the board's perspective, I mean, we could send those letters out tomorrow and update the dates on the letters to say we're coming out later this week. Because next week, it does look like if it rains over the weekend and Monday, we're going to be out probably till Friday, which means we don't meet that 15th deadline. So I guess I'm looking for some direction from the board.
I mean, I think, Andrew, the board kind of approved that we go through with this inspections. You just need to do what you need to do to get the inspections done. So if you need to send out the letters ASAP with the new dates, it's fine. But I would suggest you just do what you need to do to get this inventory completed.
Understood. Yeah, my goal is to get it as long as, depending on what happens tonight, if we get precip and when it stops, I'd like to get out there Thursday and Friday morning if possible.
Yeah, great.
So Andrew, I just want to I think you've done, this is fantastic. I we put a lot of action on you the last meeting, and I think you came back with a plan. And that's, and I know this is the start of a journey, right? But I think it's good, a good start where you laid out some bullet points on what we need to do next. And I like the way you presented it to the board. So thank you for that.
Yep. I just want to make sure that we're helping the township move in the right direction, which I think we are. We certainly accomplished a lot between, myself, Jeff, Mr. Donatelli, and the board over the past couple of months. So yeah, it's just continual progress to meet these permit requirements.
I do have one more question, and I'm just kind of shifting a little bit. I know we talked for the PRP plan, we talked about the PennDOT project. Are we any further along with that? I think you had said that you thought for the cost, it was actually a good way forward. Is that something we're pursuing, or do you need to do all this other stuff before we can think about that? Are we able to jump on the PennDOT plan?
Yeah. So one, I could be wrong, but I believe the action there was Mr. Donatelli was going to introduce Amanda Fetterman, who's also an MS4 consultant with Aero, was going to introduce Daryl St. Clair to us on behalf of the township, and then we're working with the township on this project. And simultaneously, Mr. Donatelli got word that PennDOT was required to submit their master pollution reduction plan, basically that says that all the stream restoration they're proposing is feasible in DEP's eyes. That was due today. So they should have submitted their master pollution reduction plan today, and DEP is to be reviewing it over the next couple of weeks and maybe even months, frankly. So yes, I'm still in agreement that it's a great opportunity that we want to move forward with. And I believe we just need to confirm that the township solicitor has or will provide that introductory correspondence to PennDOT, basically saying that Aero is going to be working as part of this project now, and then go forward from there.
So Jeff, can you get on? I know you work with Guy a lot and try to make those contacts. Are you able? Can you try to push that through?
I will do my best.
I know it's something you try every day. So yeah, I would hate to have this languish, because that could handle at least part of it if we could get that moving along the big L part.
Okay. So Andrew, are you looking for anything else from us tonight?
No, I believe we've discussed all of my proposed action items for this month. I'll work on preparing a summary of the comments and our opinion on next steps related to those comments for the April 6th, I believe it's April 6th meeting. And like I said, we're going to move forward with these field efforts as early as this week, weather permitting.
All right, excellent.
Yeah.
Thank you, Andrew. Very comprehensive overview. I appreciate it. Okay, so that brings us to the second round of public comments. If anyone has anything they would like to share on any topic that is either on the agenda or wasn't on the agenda that you'd like to address, I would like to open for a second public comment. Yes.
Can a resident make a motion?
No. So you can ask us. We could, yes.
I asked the board to make a motion to have median removed and the road widening removed in front of my property at 1703.
So we haven't made that decision yet. So we need to talk. We are going to meet. Yeah.
I feel like you already have made that
Yeah.
request.
So
We got you.
Yeah. So what we're gonna do is, so we were presented with some new information today. So we didn't want to just two, whatever. So we're gonna meet with PennDOT again, and like I think Donna had said it perfectly. We've got to get our act together here on this median situation, and then we'll come back and make a motion that to either keep them or get rid of them or whatever we come up with. So that's how the motion will come in. But nice try.
Gotta give him credit.
I mean, absolutely. Absolutely. Any other public comment before we adjourn?
John Auerbach, just one comment that might have got lost in the conversation. Just related to detours on Hess Mill Road. That was a big problem for us years ago with the wooden bridge. But now that we have a reinforced concrete bridge with no load limit on it, that detour becomes viable. And I ought to be aware of that. I mentioned it.
Yeah.
Tonight, right?
In my notes.
So
I have it in my notes, and when we talk to PennDOT, we'll make sure that we talk.
We'll let them know. Yeah, sure. That's a good comment. All right. Without hearing any other public comments, I make a motion to adjourn tonight's meeting at 8:42 p.m. Can I have a second? All right. Thanks, Jim. All right. All in favor, say aye.
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 Opposed, say nay. All right. Motion passes.